Hi, Paul Gorney from Luxury Living in Chicago. Welcome if you're watching the broadcast after it occurred. Um, just going to be going over Old Town today in Chicago, one of the most interesting and popular neighborhoods in the city. I put out a new video each week. Feel free to subscribe if you want to be alerted to them. So I'm one of the top selling brokers in Old Town over the last 30 years. One of the most experienced agents in Chicago, lifelong resident, born and raised, been in this area my entire life in or around it. So I just wanted to do a deep dive and improve upon a lot of information that's out there. Very general. People maybe haven't lived in the city too long, don't really sell a lot of real estate in Old Town. I want to get into more nitty gritty for those that are really interested in Old Town and learning about it. Whether you're visiting, moving to, just curious. So reach out, text, call, email if you need anything. Happy to help. So let's get into it. Some real details on Old Town. I'm going to show you the map of Old Town right now. So typically people will classify neighborhoods in Chicago. Depending on the person, they'll do it a little bit differently. So as far as real estate goes, Old Town, the real estate market, Old Town is right here on Wells Street, typically this neighborhood right here. And then it goes over North Avenue a little bit right here. So if you look where the neighborhood is, you're about less than a mile to the Gold Coast, which is one of the most expensive areas in the city. And then you're at Oak Street Beach, Michigan Avenue, the Mag Mile shopping district here. So you're within half a mile to a mile and a half of some of the best areas in the city and the country. And then just to the north of Old Town, really the neighborhoods kind of bleed into one another, is Lincoln Park. And that's where some of the confusion lies. People will typically call Old Town, some people will call it this entire area here north of the busy street, North Avenue, but really it's not. It's just kind of closer in right here. And the rest people will call Lincoln Park and have some of the most expensive homes in the city, and can be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to just focus to start right here on where and zoom in on it. This is where the majority activity is for retail and housing in Old Town, single family housing specifically. And I'll just show you some of the history of Old Town. You have just north here, you have Second City Comedy Club, which is where a lot of the original cast members, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Tina Fey was in there. Ultimately, Chris Farley, Harold Ramis, Tim Meadows, a ton, John Candy, a ton of comedians came out of the Second City, which was started in the 50s, and then went on to, bigger and better things at Saturday Night Live. So I'll give you a little glimpse here of the original cast. So Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi were all part of Second City. So it has an incredible history, lots of great shows there that you can go to. There's also Zany's Comedy Club along Wells Street, which is one of the best and oldest comedy clubs in the country. So let's get back at the map here and get down to some specifics. So along Wells Street is where you're going to see the majority of activity here. Retail activity. You have tremendous restaurants. One of the first sushi restaurants in the country. You have great Mexican. You have great burgers. You have older, very popular Italian restaurants, all up and down Wells Street here. This is where the activity is. There's a train track that runs through here, and it curves So when people are looking at housing, a lot of times they'll see what they consider a great deal, but they're not realizing it's up against the train tracks and gets a little tricky up here. So there are single family homes typically between 700 and 3.5 million, with the majority of them being between 1 and 2 million. So that's where the majority of activity is in Old Town, and where you'll see, the majority of homes right in here. So if you go a little bit north of North Avenue, where there's a little section, a historic section called the Old Town Triangle, they have some workers cottages that were built there, that were built after the Chicago fire. And then the city switched, so you couldn't build these little homes anymore. You had to build bigger, more significant brick structures. So you're kind of limited what you can do on those homes. They're landmarked by the city of Chicago. There's also some national landmarks in there. So Old Town's a little bit funny sometimes. You can't really do what you want to do to some of these homes. More of the new construction homes, larger homes are where I showed you off of Well Street, just south of North Avenue, where the majority of homes are. So if you're looking to go in Old Town, there's a lot of condos. The majority of condos are the biggest number of sales really is 600 to 1.5 million. The 1.5 million is really new construction typically, and will kind of bleed into the Lincoln Park neighborhood where the prices go up significantly. The single family homes in Old Town, the highest price typically is around 3.3, 3.5. There's 10 to 20 homes a year in Lincoln Park that sell over that. So there can be a big difference in price. Old Town is a little bit more of a hustle bustle, a little bit more louder neighborhood, a lot of restaurants, retail right there up on you. And it's a small neighborhood. It's only about half a mile by half a mile south of North Avenue. So Lincoln Park is more quiet, has longer streets, more privacy, prices are higher. Old Town, the history of it is in the 50s, 60s, 70s was incredible, just like kind of a wild neighborhood, lots of interesting retail. The first Crate and Barrel store ever was opened on Well Street in Old Town. There were some pretty wild businesses on Old Town back in the 60s and 70s. And then there's Piper's Alley, where some developers put together like 15 businesses and made an alley out of it and had all these eclectic stores. Currently, one of the biggest Starbucks in the city is in Old Town. There's a great running store that's kind of like community based. A lot of people will meet there. It's a very social thing as well as a running thing. So Old Town is different than the Gold Coast and from Lincoln Park. It is a little bit more of an acquired taste in a way, and the school options are split. There's 2 or 3 schools that the neighborhood split in between. So a lot of people in Old Town will go to private schools. So there's Catherine Cook, there's Immaculate Conception, there's other schools, there's a new preschool that just opened. The demand for preschools is off the charts. So there's a waiting list sometimes, and if you're close to Well Street, it's a great thing. There's a lot to do, but it's also can be, pretty darn busy at times, especially in the summer weekends. A lot of outdoor cafes, things like that, fun things to do. But just the great thing is you can walk to the lake, you can walk to the park, you can walk downtown. It's an amazingly convenient location and with a ton of history. So a couple other interesting things is just kind of random things. There's a Buddhist temple in Old Town. St. Michael's Church is a historic church in Old Town, right on the border of Lincoln Park. And that was built, that survived the Chicago fire in 1871, even though it got a lot of damage. And it's really a big focal point. A lot of people meet there when they're younger, living in Old Town or Lincoln Park. A lot of marriages have come out of there. I've seen a lot of clients meet their spouse in activities surrounding St. Michael's Church. So pretty interesting, vibe in Old Town. You have the church, you have the lake, you have lots of activities, biking, running. School choices are, plentiful, but you kind of have to, see what kind of element you really want there as far as school goes. So again, Old Town is right here, and then bleeds into close to Lincoln Park right here. And Wells Street is where the majority of the activity is, and you're close to just about everything you want. Reach out. You have any questions? And one last thing that I forgot to mention is there's the Old Town Art Fair, and that is a nationally known art fair that runs every June. And there's a panel of Chicago artists that nominate people to be in the art fair. Just about every kind of artist, sculpture, watercolors, digital, photography. This has been going on, I think, since the 50s. It's a pretty cool event. So check it out if you can, and reach out if you need any help with figuring out the market in Old Town.